Hey, 7th graders, it's me, Mr. Ayler, again with another one of your flip lessons. Today we're going to be working on number 66 in our interactive notebook. Great compromises should look like this in your notebook. So whenever you take your notes, go off the compromise, boom. We're going to go right down in order here, and we're going to go over here, and then down through the bottom. You only have to write down the bold and underlined terms. If you write down all the terms that are on there, they're all in complete sentences, so that'll help you out. But at least make sure you're getting the bold and underlined information, all right? All right, here we go. Let's get out of here. Don't see my big mug. All right, so as we talked about yesterday, we had an issue with how we were going to represent the people. We've talked about the 3/5 compromise that had to do with slavery, and this is now we had the two plans, the Virginia plan and the New Jersey plan, and we were both kind of at opposite ends, right? We had the New Jersey plan over here, liked by small states, one house legislature, everybody gets the same amount of representation. We had the Virginia plan over here, two house legislative branch, both houses based on representation. The first branch or the first house of the Congress passes or elects the second house of the Congress, etc. All right. So we're obviously two very, very different things. So we needed to get a compromise. Not going to satisfy everybody's wants and desires, but it's going to give a little bit of what everybody needs. A committee that was led by Roger Sherman, who was a delegate from Connecticut, is going to create what is going to be later called the Great Compromise. And it's going to kind of bring both of those parts from the Virginia plan and the New Jersey plan together in kind of a unique way, almost kind of like a duh way, like why didn't we think of that in the first place? So the Great Compromise is going to create a two-house legislative branch. The first house representation, we're going to call this house the House of Representatives because representation is based on a state's population. So if we go back to 1787, who's going to get a lot of representation in the House of Representatives? It's going to be states with a large population. So those big states are really going to favor the House of Representatives. States like Virginia, states like New York, Pennsylvania, those high populations, they're going to have, Virginia's going to have 26 representatives. New York's going to have in the 20s. Massachusetts is going to have 13, things like that. So this is kind of borrowing from the Virginia plan. Let's get one house where we have control, where representation is based on the states. Our next house is going to be called the Senate. And again, both of these are part of our National Congress still to this day. So the United States Senate, everybody is going to have the same number of senators, regardless of the size. Each state is going to get 2 senators. Okay, so today we have 50 states, 2 senators from each state. We have 100 senators in our Senate. Back in 1787, we have 13 states, which means, that's right, quick math, we're going to get 26 senators in the United States Senate. Virginia and its great big population is going to have 2 senators, the same as looking for the one with the same as Rhode Island, who has 68,000 people in it. They're going to have 2 senators. So the Senate is going to borrow from the New Jersey plan and kind of make those small states happy. In the Senate, doesn't matter how big your state is, you have the same number of votes. So there was a big worry about taxes and allowing the state under the Articles of Confederation, the state only had the ability to tax. In the Congress that we're forming under the Constitution, the national government is also going to be allowed the ability to tax the people. However, a tax bill must be proposed and must start from the House of Representatives. Here's the thinking on that. That's where you're going to have the most people voting. If we're going to have a tax bill, we're going to want to say, look, more people voted on this bill than didn't, and we have people from Virginia and people from New Hampshire and people from Massachusetts, South Carolina, Georgia, from all over the country voting on this bill in mass. It's going to get proposed. It's still going to have to do some other stuff before it becomes a law. That's why we're calling it a bill right now. It's going to be one of our vocabulary words later. But they basically wanted as many people to have a say in any tax laws, any tax bills as possible. All right, so how a bill becomes law. As you can see from the chart, it is much, much more complicated than what we're going to say. All right, there's a lot of kind of things that go into a bill making law. There's committees, there's all sorts of different things. There's debates, there's amendments. It's got to go through one house, it's got to go through two houses. Some bills go through this very quickly, some bills go through it very slowly, some bills never go through this process. But at the end of the day, in order for a bill to become a law, it has to satisfy three things. Number one, it has to be passed by the House of Representatives. Doesn't matter what order unless it's a tax bill. Number two, it has to be passed by the Senate. Again, the Senate can offer its own bills, just they can't start a tax bill. Then finally, it has to be signed by the President in order to make it a law. All right. Now, as you can see, there's lots of stuff that can happen in the middle with committee meetings and put on the calendar, debates, amendments, budget, all that different kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it must pass both houses of the Congress, and it must be signed by the President for a bill to become a law. All right. So when was this compromise finally enacted? It's going to be July 16, 1787. And you can kind of see, I really like this chart below because it can kind of show you how this compromise really came together. And it's got the two kind of states in there to help you out. So we're going to create, the Great Compromise is going to create two House legislatures. You're going to have the Senate, 2 senators per state. That's going to borrow from our New Jersey plan. We're going to have the House on the other side, the House of Representatives. More people, more votes. Virginia is going to have a ton of votes. Pennsylvania is going to have a ton of votes. New York's going to have a ton of votes. All right. Rhode Island, not so much. Delaware, not so much. Trying to look at Kentucky, not so much as these states started getting added in to the population. Which is going to happen. That is going to borrow. The House is going to borrow straight from the Virginia plan. So are the small states super duper happy about the House of Representatives? No. But they know they have the Senate. Are the big states super happy about the Senate? No, but they have the House of Representatives. And here's the kicker. It has to go through both. So both groups, the Senate, where small states are happy, the House, where big states are happy, the bills have to go through both of them in order for them to become a law. All right, that's a flip lesson for today. A lot of information. I know we're going to be talking about this probably today. We'll be talking a little bit more about it tomorrow, looking at some primary source documents, looking at all sorts of different stuff to kind of help us get this in our head, because this is how our government is situated today. All right, if you have any questions, send me a message on Schoology. I've been getting a lot of messages on there. Also, if it's something that you don't need from me personally, post it on that Schoology update board. A lot of students have been able to help out other students and get the things a little bit more quickly than I'd be able to. All right. Have a good one, guys. See you later.